Spamton G Spamton. Probably the biggest shot you will ever meet. The most successful businessman in Chapter 2 and quite possibly the missing link with Gaster. So Spamton seems to be the talk of the town recently and probably the most popular character from Deltarune at the moment. He has amazingly funny dialogue that is cryptic and almost nostalgic in a way. It reminds us about how uniquely styled Undertale's characters and dialogue were. I think Spamton relays that aspect perfectly. So welcome to Undertale Unsolved, which is a new series that will be replacing my old Undertale theories where we pretty much attempt to solve the biggest unsolved mysteries in the Undertale franchise. We're going to be starting with the one and only Spamton, mainly because I already tackled some parts of Gaster and Sans already, but also because Spamton seems like the most interesting character to cover. So the structure of this series is going to be as follows. We'll start with covering all information regarding the mystery and then attempt to solve it afterwards. So let's go over everything that has to do with Spamton as a character. In a normal playthrough, it's likely that you'll only come across Spamton one time. At first, he seems like a quirky, one-time fun character, and you'll realize that his dialogue makes very little sense. He does give you a hint to come back to him later in the game to go visit his shop, but if you're like me and were a complete idiot on your first playthrough of the game, you may have just forgotten about it. The second time you come across Spamton is in his shop, where your currency has all of a sudden turned into Chromer, and you've entered the glitchy game area! This shop offers you special items and gear that are effectively useless. Although his dialogue is pretty cool to read, if you can make sense of it. He talks about the year 1997 constantly. He talks about some guy named Mike. In the shop's background, you can hear the world revolving, which at this point is literally just the secret boss theme, let's be honest. In Spamton's shop, you can buy something called a key gen, which takes you to the Queen's basement. After some traveling back and forth between Spamton's shop and Queen's castle, you get to fight Spamton again, but in Neo form. Spamton's dialogue is very cryptic here, as if that's new. After beating Spamton Neo, a couple things change in the Dark World. If you go back to the trash zone right outside of Spamton's shop, you also get some backstory about him. The dialogue essentially says that Spamton was pretty much just a fellow merchant like the rest of the merchants you see throughout Chapter 2. Spamton just had bigger goals than everyone else. He wanted to become a big shop. He didn't give up, but his dreams came true when he received a phone call one day that effectively gave him what he wanted. When one of those merchants picked up the phone after Spamton left it, all the merchant could hear was quote-unquote garbage noise. Spamton's role is much bigger in the Snowgrave Route, as he pretty much gives you access to the appropriate gear for the route to actually happen. He also has knowledge of how many enemies Noelle has frozen. You then fight Spamton Neo outside of the Dark Fountain, and well, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the majority of the information we have on Spamton. Now here comes the part of the video where we attempt to solve the mystery based on the information we've been given. We'll start with the comparison of Spamton and Jevil. Both of them are secret bosses, both of them have the same ideology of freedom, both of them speak in all capital letters, and both have the same cause of their complete insanity. Wait, you thought Mike caused Spamton to be this way? Wait a second, who even is Mike? Well, as Toby has repeatedly said, everything he puts into the game won't always mean anything of significance. As in this case, Mike in 1997, which both seem to be very important factors of Spamton, aren't actually that important at all, as both are references to a commercial that aired in 1997 called Mike's Big Shock Soda. Okay, so if that's the case, then what exactly is Spamton? Well, we can actually draw a conclusion back to those merchants from earlier. Whoever sent out the phone call to Spamton is the same person that made Jevil obsessed with chaos. And I may have figured out who that person is based on these two chapters alone. Have you ever wondered why, if you call the cell phone in Chapter 2, the dialogue is different from Chapter 1? In Chapter 1, once you call the cell phone, you'll hear a distorted noise. And then dialogue outputs saying it doesn't appear to be working. In Chapter 2, the dialogue is different and says it's nothing but garbage noise. There was a reason this dialogue was changed, so whoever you call on your cell phone in the Dark World is the same person who was on the phone with the Spamton effectively. But what is this noise that appears on the cell phone? Well, it's actually an extremely, and I mean extremely slowed down version of Muffet's laugh. So, was it Muffet the entire time? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. Why would it even be Muffet? Well, this distortion also plays somewhere else. In entry number 17. Entry number 17 is Gaster's entry, and of course I'm not going to go too far into entry number 17 because then I'll end up rambling endlessly about Gaster, but essentially when you read this entry, the same distortion plays. So could it be Gaster that caused Spamton to become a big shot? Well, I'd say it probably has a higher chance than Muffet, mainly because in entry number 17 there's a specific quote I want you all to look at. I quote, "Darker yet darker," end quote. Those 3 words are important to Jevil's rise to chaos. After beating Jevil in chapter 1, if you go back to Sham's shop, there will be additional dialogue there about Jevil. According to Sham, Jevil's ideologies became darker yet darker. So both Spamton and Jevil are secret bosses, have some kind of connection to entries number 17, give shadow crystals upon being defeated, and have very similar ideologies. Well, I mean, you can believe what you want, but check out this playlist of all my old Undertale theories to catch up. Thanks for watching.